Hey guys, this is Jonathan with Let's Get Techy. Today we are going to be liquid cooling our EVGA GTX 1080 for the win. To accomplish this, we will be using the bracket from NZXT. This is the Kraken G10. For the liquid cooling, it will be the H105 from Corsair. Alright guys, to begin, we are going to remove the cooler from our video card. We'll be using my iFixit toolkit for this, although I wouldn't imagine that it was necessary to have something that extensive. Any smaller Phillips head screwdriver should do. So to begin, we're going to remove these 4 screws. This should release our cooler from the GPU. You want to go cross pattern when unscrewing. So I will start with this one, loosen it a few turns. We're going to cross over to this one, loosen it a couple turns, and we'll continue to follow this pattern so that we don't put undue stress on the GPU itself. So this is what she looks like without the cooler. This is actually a really nice cooler. It's beefy. 2 really large fans. Let's take a look at the underside here. Believe it or not, it's actually pretty good application of thermal paste. We will be cleaning that off so that it's not messy while it's in storage. We'll set that aside for now. I have gotten some paper towels, coffee filters, and 91% isopropyl alcohol. This is what I always use. There are some alternative products out there. Alcohol is easy, it's cheap, it's just what I normally use. I do not care for that noise. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's almost like nails on a chalkboard. Alright. I think that's got our cooler clean. Let's go ahead, and what I like to do so that I don't lose anything is I'm going to go ahead and put these screws back into the cooler so that they can be safe while the cooler is being stored, so they do not get lost. So we're going to go ahead and put those back on just so we know where they are if we ever need to send the card in for work or RMA purposes, or if you ever want to sell the card, you may need to put this cooler back on. We're going to go ahead and do a little bit of unboxing. So this is the Kraken G10 from NZXT. We will be using that to mount our Corsair H105 to the GPU. We'll also be using this fan. Wanted to pick up an aftermarket fan to go with the Kraken. Didn't necessarily think that the Kraken had a bad fan on it. Just wanted to try something a little bit different. So we'll go ahead and unbox both of these, see what they look like, what's inside, and then we'll move on to actually mounting it. So let's open this guy up first. Nice packaging, nice soft foam. Although I doubt anything in this would get damaged anyway. Okay, so here is the stock fan that comes with it. Again, I don't necessarily think this is a bad fan. Just really wanted something different, and I wanted something that had PWM control. As you can see, this one, I hope you can see, this is actually only a 3-pin. So that's one of the reasons why we went with this one. This is the F9 from Arctic. This is PWM. This is going to give you far superior control of your fan speeds. So we'll be tossing this fan to the side for now. And let's see what else we have in here. Okay, this is some of the mounting hardware, it looks like. We will be using some of that, although not exactly to the T. We have bought a couple extra things. The reason being is because I definitely, if I can, want to keep this gorgeous backplate on here. So we will vary from the instructions a bit, and hopefully we're able to pull that off and able to keep this beautiful backplate on here. Let's see what's next. Okay, this is your, I guess I would call it like a base plate. This is going to sit on the back of the card, so it will look something like this once we're all said and done. I'm going to set that to the side for now. Let's see what else we have. Zip ties, instructions. We'll take a look at those a little bit later. Some more soft foam, and here is the bracket itself. I chose black, although they do, I believe, have red and white also. My whole color theme in my current desktop is basically silver and black. That is why I went with the black bracket. We'll set that to the side as well. That's everything that was in our G10 box. We'll close that up and toss it to the side over here. Let's open up our Arctic F9 PWM fan. Haven't had a chance to take a look at this one yet. It's been so long since I ordered it, I'm not sure what it even looks like. Okay, so looks like it is very similar to what NZXT included with theirs. Unfortunately, we do have colored wires on it. Hopefully I'll be able to hide those with relative ease. But the main point here is it is 4-pin, so we will have PWM control over the fan. Other than that, it looks like a pretty good fan. It feels like it has good build quality. I think this one's gonna work out good for us. So on this side, we have the unit that came with the G10. This is the new one that we'll be using. They look very similar. It looks like this has a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blade design. This one has 7. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this has a 9 blade design. They are very close in how they are shaped. Believe we're going to get a little bit better cooling out of the Arctic one. Let's see, on the back of the box it does say controlled by PWM. It has an RPM range of 500 to 1800 RPM. So we will see how that works out for us. So we have unboxed our cooler. The reason that I chose this cooler over some of the others, it's one that's compatible with this. It's going to have the teeth at the bottom that will match up with the Kraken's bracket. So first and foremost, that's why I chose this cooler. B, I chose it because it is a 240 millimeter variant. So a lot of the coolers that you see used for GPUs, at least all-in-one coolers, things like EVGA's offering, those are only 120 millimeter. So we are doubling that with this. Should do a very good job of helping us cool this GPU. The other neat thing is that we do have this, we'll call it a base plate. So this is going to make contact with things like the VRM, the VRAM. So this will be cooling the things underneath. We're going to use the fan that I showed you guys earlier. So this will be blowing air down onto this plate, which should cool everything that the liquid cooler is not, the GPU proper. So this will cool everything that is not the GPU itself. So we'll go ahead and get these screws started. Since it has this heat spreader, this base plate on top, and we're also wanting to leave the beautiful back plate on the bottom, we are going to have to do some things a little bit different. So for starters, this plate that's going to go on the back, once again, like, let me get this flipped around here. So this will basically sit on here like this. The thing that we have to do differently is, since we're leaving this and the back plate on, there's this foam pad here, and what that's for is to keep any of the contacts on the back of the PCB from grounding out. This is made from metal, so they have that on there under the assumption that you aren't going to have a black back plate on your card. We do, so we're going to be removing that. It comes off fairly easily. We're going to tear into our bag of goodies that came with the Kraken. Alright, so we will be using these screws that were supplied with it. These screws, I believe, are going to go into the C hole. So you've got a try setup here, A, B, and C, for different video cards that this bracket will work with. I believe we'll be using C for our purposes today. One thing that we are going to do a little bit differently, and I'm sure you guys have already noticed, we've got some copper shims over here, as well as washers. Now what these washers are going to do, they're going to help us make it look a little bit nicer. Not sure if you'll be able to see this. I will put a link in the description. These are screw size number 6 nylon finishing washers. And what we're going to do, let me give you a little bit better look at what these look like. Hopefully you can see that. What we're going to do is, this is going to go onto our screw before it goes through our back plate. Just makes it look a little bit nicer. So we'll put each one of those in there on part C. So it's slotted, it's only going to fit a specific way. So there you see it, we've got it in C there. And we're going to repeat that for the rest of them. We're also going to use these tiny little nuts. This came with the kit as well. This is going to go over this screw now that it's through the plate. So we'll put that on. We'll get that screwed down. We'll do it hand tight for now. We'll go back and tighten that up a little bit later with a wrench. And we're going to repeat that process for the rest of them. So each one of these will receive one of these nylon washers. So the flat portion of it is facing out towards the threads, and the curved portion is facing up towards the head of the bolt. So it's going to sit just like that. You'll be able to see the NZXT logo the correct way around. And again, the difference being, since we have taken out that foam piece, it is going to sit flush with the back plate of the card. We are going to need to put one of the supplied washers in between this and this for each one of these studs coming through. So at this point I'm going to run and get a wrench so we can go ahead and tighten these nuts that we put on, and we'll also use the correct supplied washers to go on before we actually put it on the back of the card. I grabbed a 7mm deep well socket. Now what we're going to use that for is just to tighten these nuts right here. You'll just slide it on like that. You can tell it's the right size because of how it catches, and you'll just twist with your fingers. There's no need to get a ratchet and use a ratchet on this. We're not looking for maximum torque. By hand is perfectly fine. So we're just going to tighten the 4 of these. I have actually already done that off of camera, but I wanted to show you guys how I was doing it. So we'll tighten those by hand. Again, nothing too hard. Then we will use the nylon washers that were supplied with the Kraken. One of those will go on each one of these posts. I know you guys have noticed, and I alluded to earlier, these copper shims. So Steve over at Gamers Nexus, great guy, he actually had to use these copper shims on one of the recent hybrid builds that they were doing. So we'll be using that here as well. The reason being is because with this base plate heat spreader on here, these little portions right here that are sticking out, those will actually come in contact with the pump block of our cooler when we try to set it down, and it won't allow the cold plate to sit flush onto the die. So what we're going to do is use these copper shims. It'll go over it like that, and that will fill the void in between the GPU itself and the pump block combo of our all-in-one cooler. I will link these below. Very, very inexpensive. It came in a bag of 20, I believe, so I have plenty left over. That also goes for the nylon washers as well. Had several of those left over, obviously. So if anyone is interested in doing this mod, feel free to shout at me, and I'll be happy to let you guys have some of those, whoever would be interested. They were so inexpensive, and I have no other use for them at this point after I do this. Now we will also go ahead and clean one of our shims. We're going to do that the exact same way with a coffee filter and some isopropyl alcohol. But as I said, we're going to use some thermal compound both underneath this copper shim and on top of the copper shim. If that is forgotten, that will be disastrous. Do not forget thermal compound below it as well as on top of it. I'm actually going to go ahead and put the bracket on without any thermal compound on and without the shim on, just to show you how it goes on there. I will go back off camera and put it on there with thermal compound. One thing to note is that you need to remove the bracket from this pump block combo. Once you take it off, it comes off in 2 pieces. You will have this metal ring that you will not need, as well as this plastic ring. You will also not need that. Both of those would be necessary if you were going to cool a CPU with this cooler. We are going to put these back in the box and save them just in case we ever have any other plans for this particular cooler. So for now, we'll set that to the side, and we will begin installing the bracket. with the cooler on it onto the card. The very first thing that we're going to do is install these little foam spacers, I guess is what I would call them. I've already taken a look at the bracket and how it sits on here. Our first one will go right there, and our second one will actually go right here next to the fan header. We're ready to go ahead and install the cooler. What you're going to do is take your bracket, and again, you'll need to have already applied thermal compound and a shim, depending on the GPU you are using. We're going to go ahead and slide this through the bracket. You give it a little twist and then pull back up, and it locks into place. Now you want to keep tension on this pump block, pulling it back. Once it's latched on the bottom side, it can still fall down, so you're going to want to keep tension on it so that it does not fall down. And you're going to line it up with your studs. So there we have it. We have slid it on. I believe that's about as far down as she's going to go, which is fine, because once we install our nuts on the top, it will go ahead and push it the rest of the way down. I know that was a really long video. I apologize. Tried to cut out as much as I could while still leaving enough information for anyone who wants to replicate what I did. To make it up to you for the length of the video, if you have stuck around this long, you deserve something. This is the EVGA GTX 1060 Superclocked. I do have a video coming on this soon. I will be giving this card away. Stay tuned for that. Get subscribed. We have a lot more content coming.